we need to have a citizenry that's prepared for that, whether it's on the political front to protect our democracy, from people who seek to undermine our science, which is at the core of the strength of our country, being able to distinguish facts from non-facts, and then being able to come together as a country around what is true.
That there's a reason we spend most of our time in California. It's we can actually get stuff done there. Then it'll be translated into federal legislation, because it should be done federally.
Thank you today for the ability to present to you Senate Bill 947. This is legislation to create a process for parents, students, educators, and other educational stakeholders to collaborate with the State Department of Education to develop proposals about digital citizenship, media literacy, and the safe use of technology. Currently, there are no standards for teaching students about the more critical aspects of digital citizenship, things like privacy and what is truly fake news. Specifically, this bill will require the Superintendent of Public Instruction, in consultation with the State Board of Education and a panel of stakeholders, to identify these best practices in media literacy and then report to the legislature on strategies best to implement these practices. This measure will help our students learn how to safely, responsibly, and effectively use the extraordinary potential of the media and technology resources that are available to them.
We've seen strong evidence of collusion and intervention by one of our most hated enemies over the course of the Cold War, and Russia having had an impact on America's elections.
When you started to see the hacking of the election, which really woke people up, no matter what their political viewpoint was, is it's obvious they hacked the election using Facebook and Twitter, guys.
And with me today in support of SB 947 is Danielle Kando-Kaiser of Common Sense Kids Action.
Common Sense Kids Action is the legislative arm of Common Sense Media, where we empower parents, teachers, and policymakers by providing unbiased information to help them harness the power of media and technology as a positive force in all kids' lives. The fake news that our children see online, on places like YouTube, that is of top concern. It should be of top concern.
Some speakers here in support.
Erica Hoffman on behalf of the California School Boards Association in support of the measure.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. Isabel Garcia, representing the California Teachers Association. For all the reasons stated, we're recommending a formal support at our upcoming State Council of Education meeting.
Thank you.
Good morning. Sam Nasher with the Los Angeles County Office of Education and Support.
Nikki Moore, representing Real News for the California News Publishers Association.
All right, thank you.
There's a lot of misinformation. Sometimes misinformation is more appealing, and you don't know. People are retweeting things that are unconfirmed, that they don't know. And then, of course, we can talk about, well, our intelligence agency have said there is manipulation of elections. We need to have a citizenry that's prepared for that, whether it's on the political front to protect our democracy, to protect themselves from commercial exploitation, from people who seek to undermine our science, which is at the core of the strength of our country, being able to distinguish facts from non-facts, and then being able to come together as a country around what is true. And so I think it's extremely vital that we educate our students, and that actually there's an urgency to this as well. The technology is moving forward, so we need to make this a top priority, because our students and actually our adults are being exposed to this on a constant basis. So I certainly urge support and be happy to move at the appropriate time your bill.
I'm presenting SB 830 pertaining to media literacy education. The proliferation of fake and misleading news is deeply concerning. Even more concerning is the lack of education provided to ensure people can decide and determine what is fake and what is not. SB 830 requires the State Board of Education to develop a model curriculum in media literacy. It's about safeguarding the future of our democracy. With me today in support is Donnie Kondo Kaiser, Common Sense Kids Action.
This bill thoughtfully leverages other past and current efforts such as SB 947 to ensure best practices and resources are being developed over the next few years. We're excited to work with Senator Dodd on expanding his vision of creating curriculum that more fully empowers and supports educators, and we urge your aye vote. Thank you.
And I am looking to get private funders for this. I've had a number of different companies in the media and internet space that really like this proposal and want to help fund it so that it's not a state cost.
The bottom line for us on this, big picture, is that we believe that a thoughtful look and restructuring of the governance of education, K through 12 here in California, will have a long-term positive impact on the lives of kids. To move the authority for the operations of the California pre-K through 12 public education system at large, and the ultimate responsibility for the delivery of education to students within the office of the governor under the State Board of Education.
You seem to want to bring most of the powers of the SPI under the governor, but I guess you could just as easily, to clear up the confusion, do it the other way around and bring some of the authorities of the board under the SPI, right?
I think I get your point. I don't think we think that the SPI is losing in this equation. We believe that the SPI is actually going to be empowered in this proposal. And a lot of the conversations we had last year when we were circulating this around and talking to different experts, including with SBI Torlakson and his staff, was a sense from them, actually, that that would be positive.
Good morning. Sue Vang on behalf of State Superintendent of Public Instruction. Tom Torlakson, we very much appreciate this conversation on K-12 governance, but want to be clear that Superintendent Torlakson does not have a position on the common sense proposal. We look forward to working with the legislature if this is something that they continue to work on this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
What about the suggestion I just made that you could flip it the other way around so that the administrative functions that exist in the state board?
I get it. You could. Our sense is it makes more sense to do it under the state board and the governor, because we think that ultimately the governor is the person, when you think of your average constituent, who the public's going to hold accountable, and we think that it's a stronger position electorally. Quite frankly, a governor's a bigger deal than SPI. And we think it makes a logical sense to have the overall accountability in one place rather than across multiple different locuses. Your point's well taken that you could say, let's put it all over here. But I think it would continue the confusion. And our sense is this is the simplest, most logical way to do it. It's just, it just on its face, and also with the input of so many different people around the state, it is a more logical, streamlined, efficient, transparent system.
So where is the evidence this would be a more logical and transparent and efficient system? I mean, you've threw out a few examples of states that happen to have good results that also happen to have the system that you like, but the gentleman who testified before you, who I think you acknowledged is more knowledgeable about the topic than you, stated that there's no quantifiable evidence, actually, that one system works better than the other.
Is there one study that could canonize that? No, and that's a fair question.
So would you agree that we should probably not make any sort of structural change until we have a higher level of evidence where the folks who just testified could tell us that we actually do now have some good evidence that this model is better than that one?
I wouldn't, although I think that's a fair question. No, I think that the body of evidence that exists is good enough to suggest that a change now will make that happen.
Can you remind me what that evidence was?
Yeah, I think it's really the evidences of talking to all the key education players around the state.
I mean, talking to people isn't really evidence. Can you point to what the evidence is?
You know, the only evidence I would point to would be the states that are exceeding us in terms of their rankings in delivering educational services to pupils, who have a more streamlined, efficient systems.
So if there are states that are exceeding us, that
no. But I think, to some extent, the burden of proof is on you to the proponents of making such a big change, because we have to make sure that sure, we may, if the choice were, if we were starting a brand new state, would we structure things the way we do now? Perhaps not, maybe more along the lines of what you're just suggesting. But the question is, if we're going to take all the steps necessary and all the upheaval associated, is it going to be worth it?
I'm a child advocate, and what we decided to give away for free was ratings and reviews of movies, TV, video games, books, and music. We built the media platform, and as you know now, it's 80 million plus regular users. Then we're in more than half the schools in the United States are members of Common Sense. And then we've always had this advocacy voice that was really about all kids' issues, poverty, early child, and stuff like that. But the truth is, the extraordinary explosion of media and technology in all of our lives just went to the fore. We are pro-tech, pro-media, if it's done well. We built an entire rating system with Bill Gates. Many of you may know we have a educational rating platform that's similar to our consumer platform, which is now used by most of the schools in the United States. We're building version 2.0 of the digital citizenship curriculum, which will be in your kid's school this fall. We call out bad stuff that happens. That's our job. That's why we are an advocacy platform as well.
I have chosen to devote my life to this cause. You know, I want to help children. I'm not a parent, so I want to help everybody else's children. There's roughly a third of people in America who define their being around some idea that is manifestly not true, right? Whether it's contrails or anti-vax or, whether it's climate change denial, whatever it is. It's roughly a third of the population. And there was going to be a really significant number of people who believe nonsense, but that position is made radically worse, and the number of people is radically larger because of Facebook. And I am personally chosen to devote myself as long as necessary to trying to fix that.
Our strategy is largely state-based advocacy. We're the employment agency for all the tech company lobbyists in state capitals around the country, because we're running bills about tech and privacy around the country now.
We as a society and state know how to do that. Even in this day and age, we do need to educate parents about the proper way to raise those kids.
So what are we going to do about it? Just sit here and do nothing and never talk about it? No.